eyes are burning. It's really bad.
Larry, we're live. Do you want to do the honors?
Well,
We're live.
welcome to Let's Grow Pulling with Bill Casey, Kinsey Chandler, Michael, and myself. I didn't smoke until I went to Broadbent Arena and warmed up the Pro Stocks.
You can't write stuff better than that. That's perfect.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I just wrote it.
Can't say it better than Larry. Welcome to Let's Grow Pulling, guys. Our featured guest tonight, your Super Farm Saturday Night National Farm Machinery Show champion, driver of the Whoopie Maker, Mr. Bill Casey. Bill, thank you so much for doing this with us. And is there any tired, like getting home from Louisville tired, or are you still riding the adrenaline right now?
Kind of both. It's it was a long week, but still adrenaline filled and doing well.
Well worth it, I'm sure. So, yeah, kind of tell us about your Louisville experience and what it meant to you to come out on top.
Oh, it was wonderful. We went down there with the game plan to make it into the finals, and we did that Wednesday night with our famous run. And then Saturday night we got into the finals, second hook, and did what everybody else wants to do and shove it in the sand.
I've got to talk to both you and Larry because I don't know the rule book well enough. Larry, you would know the answer, and Bill, I'm sure you would too. Is that little cover that sits on the end of the weight rack, is that the same as like a movable piece of weight? If that would have touched the ground, would you have been DQ'd?
Yes. I believe so, but Larry would know better.
Larry, walk us through the rule.
Well, anything, that hits the ground while under the green flag is subject to disqualification. The only time that doesn't apply is on a mod or a mini where they might lose an exhaust pipe, and then it's up to the track judge whether he lost it and endangered anybody because the V of a V8, the valve's going to hit the ground. But with the rule clearly states on turbocharged engines, that is cause for disqualification if anything falls off. So, yeah, but I seen the video when I was in Broadbent watching, and the cover comes off, flips completely over. It almost falls back on the pins, and I thought, whoa, I know been breathing a lot of smoke from the Pro Stocks, but damn. And have you got that footage?
Yeah, it's right. If you look in this corner.
Put it up as the big picture so we can all see it.
Give me a second, Larry.
Pardon me. Yeah, there it is. That's it. There it was. Yeah, slowed down. So, folks, you have to understand we are centimeters away from a disqualification. He ends up getting second, plows into the sand, and then wins the whole damn show on Saturday night. I mean, this is, like I said, you can't write this stuff. This is unbelievable.
The pulling gods were definitely in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
They were.
Did you have any idea that it was doing that little dance up there while you were driving?
I did not. I didn't even know it until well after the pull, after the interview. I had no idea what happened.
Did you get a chance to see the video sometime between Wednesday and Saturday?
Oh, I watched it probably 200 times.
So were you, thinking the same thing as Larry that, hey, this could have been a DQ? Were you praising the pulling gods like Larry says?
Oh, yeah, because our dad would have been really mad had that hit the ground. And he even checked it personally before we pulled. He
That
made
thing
sure it
threw-
was latched.
That thing threw a whole 18 inches forward.
Okay, see
That's
that?
a full backflip and lands right as pie.
As
Yep,
a matter
it
of
almost
fact,
clipped itself back in.
afterwards,
Yeah.
when I went by to get fuel and water, afterwards I told him, by the way, if you want to duct tape that thing on for tomorrow, that's great.
That's great. That's,
Now we went to
Larry,
the hardware store and got a bolt.
so it was on good. It was on good on Saturday night.
Saturday, it was not coming off.
What's it like to qualify? So, we can look at Mr. Round on Jason Round on Saturday. He wins Saturday afternoon. He doesn't have to do anything but turn right around, go back to the trailer, get the engine good and cool, get it warmed back up again, and then he wins again on Saturday night. You qualify on Wednesday, and then I imagine you're just getting tighter and tighter, and your nerves are like a bowstring as you're waiting for Thursday, Friday, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night finally rolls around. Is there an urge to start second guessing yourself and tinkering with things that you shouldn't tinker with?
A little bit, but we knew we had a pretty good setup Wednesday night. Obviously, it got us into the finals. And then, so all week we pretty much went to school on the track. We studied how the pro stocks come out. We studied where they went, where they started, where they finished, what the track was like, where the dips and the bumps were. And so we took that information Saturday and moved the sled accordingly, and it ended up working out for us.
Larry, what'd you think of the track this year? This is only the second time I've been to Louisville. The first time I went, I thought it was one of the best tracks I'd ever seen, and then this past year, it just blew me away. You've probably seen it dozens of times. Tell us about your impression of the track this year.
Hello?
We've lost audio from you, Larry, somehow.
How about now?
There we go.
When you hit the unmute button, it makes a lot of difference. Well, I didn't want you to hear me cough because of the smoke in the Broadbent Arena. Anyway, it's always when Dan Christiani builds a track, it's going to be spot on. And I've worked with a lot of indoor tracks, including Indy Super Pull, Shipshawana, a bunch of other ones. And by today's standards, that track's every bit or better than anything outdoors could be. They've got it down to a science. They lay it in, they water it, they lay it in, they water it, and there's no better track indoors than Louisville.
Bill, would you agree with that? And tell us about what you kind of learned watching it and how you applied that Saturday night.
So we learned that the track was hooking up pretty good. So we had to come out really hard. Not too hard, though. We didn't want to blow our tires off right away. We wanted to slip it out 5-10 feet and then let her out. Seemed like the pro stocks, the harder they come out, the farther they went. So we took that same theory, revved her up a little harder, and made the best of it.
It looked like as we kind of watched the story develop, the whole pull and as we saw things, it looked like if you were gutsy enough, hugging that left sideline was really where people wanted to be. And I don't remember, where did you kind of place the Bauer built machine Saturday night, and was it on that left side?
It was actually in the middle of the tunnel. The pro stocks had started digging a hole on the left-hand chalk line for the first 10 feet there. So we had to move to the right of that and get up on the top side. So that way, when we came out, we didn't go down and lose our hitch height. Their tires will bring themselves up and keep them at a better hitch where we don't have that kind of speed. So we had to move on over, keep our hitch high, keep it locked in, and went on the way down and put her in the sand. So
we got a comment coming in, says every available weight going to put it up front. Have the ears pinned back before you let it loose. Does it throw you back in the seat? When I talk to pullers, they talk really about getting slammed back in the seat because you're coming off the line so hard, but then getting shot out of the seat when that weight box, comes sprinting after you and slams into you.
I didn't feel it as much down there at Louisville as I do outside in the normal tracks. I don't know if we're not getting to go as fast. We don't have the power of the pro stocks and them guys got, so we probably don't get up to our normal speed like they do. So because we run a couple gears lower down in Louisville than we do out in the circuit, so we don't come out as hard, but it was still pretty exciting. But
yeah. Did you have it in the basement when it comes to gears, or did you still have a few more you could drop down if you absolutely had to?
Nope, we had it in the basement.
I was talking to some pullers and they said, take it out of the proud gear, put it in the humble gear, shift one down from that, and then if you've got anywhere left you can dig and go lower than that, put it in that one. And that was kind of what people were telling me this whole week long.
Yeah, our tractor actually, we've been figuring out, likes a lower, slower gear, even out on the normal tracks. That's how we won Bowling Green. We downshifted. Everybody else was upshifting. That's how we won quite a few other Michigan pulls. We just stayed with that nice slow gear. We let the tires hook in, which Chad Mayhill did a wonderful job cutting those. And they just hook in. They stay hooked in. Down there at the big end, it just pulls us on through. And that's, I think, where we took out and won the championship with it.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of stories of success. Obviously, a Bowling Green win, a Louisville win. I mean, what's left on the bucket list at this point, buddy?
Well, it would be Grand National, but that too much time involved getting away from the work for 3-4 days at a time. We can justify taking a half a day off, going pulling, coming back home by 2 a.m. and being back to work the next day. But we can do that quite a bit. But being gone for 3, 4, or 5 days in a row, just a little too much for us. Plus, we don't have a toter home yet. But never know, that might change in the future. And I just hope we're as strong now as we are in the future to do that.
Well, you guys certainly sound like you found the path for success so far. And that Chad Mayhill, that name got thrown around a lot this weekend. And I think there was a lot of success affiliated with products that he's had his fingers on. So
he's very good at cutting tires. Yeah.
Did you see a lot of guys in Broadbent, Larry, that you knew had been working with Chad and had taken care of their tires?
Yeah, I'd say 60-70% of them were Chad Mayhill customers. But there's no question that they got it figured out with the Whoopie Maker, and that track is shorter, so it's more of a hole shot and pull track than it is a race track. I mean, several of them coined the phrase, race sleds, and Von Bauer has to set the sled entirely different to catch you fast enough because he doesn't have that extra 100-foot of track. And he likes to use the last 20 feet of a 350-foot track to catch you. And that second time the seat hits you, Mike, is when the pan trips and the back of the pan goes in, and the scarf bar on the back of the pan, the bars actually hit the ground. So that he done a good job driving, and that's how you got to drive it to Louisville. And you can tell the guys that go out there and say, "Oh, I can turn this gear," but no, it's a whole different setup. The sled pulls entirely different at Louisville because the length of the track, and good enough the Whoopie Maker knew what to do or got lucky. I don't know how he did it, but he did it, and that's all that matters. Dang it, he won.
If it's luck, then I'm going to the gas station with Bill and I'm buying a scratch off ticket after he's touched it, because something tells me if luck is winning Bowling Green and winning Louisville, we're speaking with a very lucky individual right here. And you talked about Von Bauer. People talk about always they put their tractor set on kill. That's a phrase we hear in tractor pulling a lot. Old Von Bauer had that red sled Saturday night to the equivalent of set on kill. That wagon was dialed in, and if you were gonna sniff the sand pile, you were gonna have to be about perfect, because he was about perfect Saturday night. So did the sled feel different between Wednesday and Saturday?
It felt a little tighter. And then after our run, he was almost going to change the sled and make us all run again. But luckily, we had a good flagman down there that knew our tractor and knew what we was capable of, and got the sled operator to keep the sled the same, and it worked out for us. So
that's one of the most intelligent comments I've heard in pulling, and something that gets completely overlooked. But yeah, having a good flagman who understands, and that I'd say the 300-foot flagman, the 250-foot flagman at Louisville, he's got a heck of a job knowing when to throw the red versus when to let them kind of go in there and to give that feedback as to, here's where they're going to finish. I like you drawing attention to that, because that's no easy task, and he did his job. He did his job well. I mean, exceedingly well this week.
Well, that's Scott Doty, and Scott Doty is a finish line flagman at a lot of the premier events. He cut back on how many he was going to do, but Scott and Vaughn work together a lot, and Scott about knows what to expect of who. And like I say, it's a team effort. And I don't know if Vaughn was going to change it or not, but Scott, I'm sure, stopped him if he was. But
he was going to change
that sled's entirely different than all the other sleds of Von Bauer's are different than the red one. The red one's actually got a longer pan, and the fulcrum point where the pan actually pivots underneath the rails is different. There's some experimental things that he did to that sled when it was debuted. It's built just a tad bit different. It's about 18 inches longer on the pan, which means the bars are further back. Mm-hmm. And, in the four-wheel drive class, that first night we seen, the Zarian truck go way out there, and Vaughn made some adjustments. But the fact of the matter is, you got Scott Doty on the finish end, and you got Von Bauer in the cab of the sled. You got one hell of a team, and they're going to figure it out. And once they do, you're in for a good show and some great competition.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. That name is pretty much synonymous with, championship level competition when it comes to sled building and understanding how to build a track and everything involved with that. Pullers Championship. I'm trying to pull this off. I should know this of all people on the top of my head. And Pullers Championship, talked about, didn't make it in.
Probably would now.
Sure, yes. Tell Jason and Brent and everyone that runs that voting's got to go 1 week longer.
Well,
so
that's right.
There's promoter choice. Just tell them hey, look at us. Yeah.
No.
Right.
Well, Bill, I appreciate your time. I told you we wouldn't kill more than 15 minutes of your time. I'm one of those people that if you let me get going, I'll talk to everyone till midnight. And so
that's fine.
And I know you're East Coast time too, and we had a bit of a kerfluffle with that at first. So anybody you want to thank, anybody you need to give a shout out to before we let you get on with your evening?
Yeah, I got to thank my dad for sponsoring most of this tractor. My brothers, Matt and Steve, all my uncles. They're helping with the farming and stuff while I'm gone. And then Steve Pierce and Long Electric for helping sponsor and work on the trailer and the hauler in our barn. And then Ryan Salenbean for sponsoring the pole, getting that turbo from Apex. That'll be awesome. And Chad Mayhill for cutting our tires. He did a wonderful job there. And everybody else that just helped put this together to make it down there this weekend and have the did we have the longest winning distance of the weekend? We might not have the longest.
I said I can speak comfortably and say that of passes that didn't count, you did not have the longest run. That's going to go to Ike Zaring, but
I think we had the longest winning distance.
I'm gonna go ahead and give you that honor. I'm gonna work with that right now. So we'll go ahead and say that. Super Farms are awesome. Pulling's awesome. Bill Casey, you're a great interview.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Come back and join us anytime. It's an honor having you on, and great job this year with your successes, both at Bowling Green and Louisville.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Have a great night.
Yep.
See ya. Have a good night.
See ya. See you, Larry.
There's Mr. Brady. Hey, Brady, if we can't get Keith online, what we can do is one of us can just call him and we can put him on speakerphone. And typically they can still, if you get them anywhere near a microphone, typically we can hear them and kind of get their 2 cents. Kinsey, I think that should work, don't you?
I got him on the phone now, actually.
I'll just check. Hey, Keith, this is Mike from Beer Money Pulling. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So we'll run it this way for now and see if we can get some stuff done behind the scenes. Next on our list, Brady Ingram and Keith Witt, American Pride and Shy Diesel finishing first and second place Saturday afternoon session in the Super Stock Diesel trucks. Now, gentlemen, we had the pleasure to speak on Friday night, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we kind of said this, didn't we? Wasn't there somewhere in the interview where we said 1 and 2 is going to be what we're shooting for? Do you guys remember that, or am I just making stuff up at this point?
Yeah, believe it or not, that did happen.
And to be even more specific, we pointed at Keith and said it's his turn. We said Keith's going to go number 1 and Brady's going to go number 2. So if there's – Kinsey, did we find any video of that? Did we track that down in the interview? If we could prove that to the world. So
I'm trying to find it.
You're fine. So, Keith, let's give you a holler. Congratulations on your first place finish at Louisville. Are you on top of the world right now, sir?
Yeah, I haven't landed. That's for sure. This, It was a dream that didn't think would ever come true.
Your truck hooked up and had your truck hooked up early and was off like a bullet and had speed and was down to the ground at between 60 and 100 feet. Did you know pretty early on in the run that you were in for one that was pretty special?
Well, I was concerned at first. After Jaden, she had, she got to bouncing, and I got a little bit of bounce, and I just hope we can drive through it, and then all of a sudden it started feeling really good.
Yeah, it looked like it was locked in. What's it like? So you hooked earlier in the class, earlier than Brady. Brady, you were second to last or last. You were clear towards the bottom, weren't you?
Yeah, last one.
Keith, what's it like sitting over there in first place with several? I mean, you had, Mr. Brady himself. You had Van Hazley. I think Kent Crowder was back there. What's it like, knowing that those guys are waiting in the wings? Are you just about to fall out of your fire suit because you're so nervous? Or what's that like sitting over in that corner watching those trucks go by?
You're pretty close. Yeah. And when Kent came, I just figured that, it was all over, and I could see under his truck that the cone, he hadn't got past it. And I thinking that, this might be a little better than I thought.
It was one of the prettier runs of the weekend. I'll just put it that way. When you're looking for those where just everything lays down correctly and goes smoothly. A couple others that come to mind. Cameron Neves had a great job driving that tractor on Saturday night. I think Jason Round had a couple of great runs, just where everything is just smooth and you just know that you've got it. So it was a picture perfect thing. Larry, were the diesel truck drivers behaving themselves over in Broadbent all weekend long, or do you kind of have to keep this crew under your thumb a little closer?
They behave a lot better than some of the others, trust me. They don't smoke it. I mean, they warm up, but they don't smoke it up near like Pro Stocks. I didn't smoke until I was in Broadbent when the Pro Stocks were warming up. So now I had to come home and start smoking.
Yeah, our joke has been Broadbent is a smoke-free arena. Larry wasn't allowed to. There's no smoking in Broadbent, so poor Larry could only just now get his Louisville Victory cigar. Brady was your baseball coach. You told me that your baseball coach was only going to excuse you from practice if you won. Now, were you able to kind of say, look here, Mr. Coach, I got second. That's kind of like winning, and my teammate got first. So, is he making you run extra laps, or are we good to go back on the ball field?
No, I think he's going to be all right with it. He knows the involvement I got with Keith's trucks, and funny story. So one of the guys just called me on the team. They're coming back home from Mississippi today, and the bus broke down.
And was there anyone there to fix it?
Nope, they're still on the side of the road. It sounded like so.
Tell the world, the YouTube, the Facebook, tell the world, because we didn't talk about this in your interview. Tell them the story. This is a way. First of all, tell them what you do when you're not winning diesel pulls, and tell them what you do at college, and then tell them this bus driving story.
Well, so I work for a trucking company back home. Work at Ed Lewis Trucking, and we got about 160 semis we run over the road, and we maintain about 300 of our own trailers. So we're always busy with that, and help Shy with the pulling truck side of things more than anything. But going to school for getting a degree in diesel technology down at Rend Lake College, and I was heading to a baseball game there last year, and
because you play college baseball, right?
I play college baseball too, and it was one of the first games. You're still kind of meeting everybody, trying to figure out everybody's names. There's 40 guys you've never met before, and the bus breaks down. It just started overheating, and just shut off on the side of the road. We was going down to Murray, Kentucky, and it was one of the things like everyone's like, what do we do? And there's a couple kids who knew what I was at college for, and they was like, go look at it. I'm like, really? I was kind of, I was like, okay. So, I got off the bus. I was like, well, here's what we need. And, the radiator hose had a slit in it. So all the coolant that was in the motor drained out. I'm like, we got athletic tape, we got tape of any sort. And we had athletic tape in the training bag. So, we wrapped it up, and then I was like, we need some water or something. Well, we bought a case of water for the game. Well, by golly, we filled her up with some water, and, we made it. We probably made it 15 miles, and one of the other kids on the team, another catcher, his dad owns a trucking company in Murray. So he had went home and was just going to meet us at the game. And so he ran to his dad's shop and got a radiator hose and some tools and met us at the exit ramp, and we got her fixed up, and it made it back home.
Did you go from the new kid on the block freshman to kind of the getting a round of applause when you came back on the bus?
Yeah, getting back on the bus, that was pretty neat.
That alone should have got him some extra points with the coach.
As the coach put him in the starting lineup that night, he says, hey, man, you're DHing after that. We need a go-to guy. I'd have went back on the bus and I'd have said, hey, guys, because, these guys probably, don't know what you know. And I said, hey, guys, we got a problem in the intercooler, and just between the two-stage turbo system, we're just not building enough boost right now. So
many of them wouldn't have known the difference.
Tell us about your run at Louisville. You're the opposite of Keith. Keith's over there sweating bullets, and you're sitting back there cheering for Keith, wanting Keith to win, but also getting excited to put your own helmet on. What's it like being on the back half of things, kind of thinking, is the track getting better? Is the track going away? I want him to win, but I don't, I've still got to go out there and do my thing.
Yeah.
What was that like on the other side of Freedom Hall?
Oh, man, it's tough because, you want Keith to win, but, we also wanted, Carolyn Counts, Casey Morris, Kent, everyone with the Shy motor. I mean, as long, if Shy gets on top, then that's a win for us. So, watching all them guys, make passes, there's a lot of them. That was their first, pass in Louisville. So, to watch them go down the track, that was awesome to see that happen. And, we had, between Eller and, Kent and Van and I there at the back, that's a tough group of trucks to get around, and then Keith was already out the door in the beginning. So, me and Dad, we paced around, where do we want to go? Where do we want to go? And, we wanted to go right where Van set the sled. So, then we was like, well, do we keep going right? No one's been over there. And last minute, I'll be honest, it was actually one of the guys that helps Van. And, this is one of the things I love about pulling. So I asked Eric Huckey, we're really tight. And, it's one of the things, Hazley, Van Hazley would drop anything for us, and same for, us to him. That just kind of the best thing about pulling, honestly, just the family, like we talked about in the interview the other day. But I asked him, I was like, you think there's anything left over here? And he said, he's like, I would come to the left before I went to the middle. And that's what we did, and it paid off.
Larry was kind of shaking his head earlier when I was talking to Bill Casey about this. And Keith, you can jump in and give us your opinion too. That left field line, to use some more baseball talk here, buddy, that was a sweet spot this weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that intimidating because of the infamous Louisville left turn? Do people try to stay away from that? And we saw it, Larry. We saw people go left a lot yet again this weekend. Do they want to get over to the middle and to the right because they know it's coming for them? Is it a little nerve-wracking to flirt with fire when you're over there like that?
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, especially for the, tractor guys, watching them. Keith actually got us tickets for the finals. And I think that's the first time that me and Emma have sat down and watched a pull together that, since we've been together. That was one of the neatest things, was actually just sitting back and watching, classes, just watching them guys. And whenever they picked up the front end, I mean, you didn't know where they was going to go, or at least us, you can halfway get figured out, where it's going to pull you to. And, it doesn't do too bad. You can just kind of drive out of it.
So you're a fan of having 4 points of contact on the ground at all points.
Yeah, I sure like that.
Hey, Keith, were you telling me, and I could be wrong on this, your American Pride truck, is it a 3-charger setup?
Yes. Yeah. It, just got it all done. Where Brad, they all worked on it, they're at the shop, and then took it up there to Nate up at Sandridge, and he did the plumbing on it and put the spoke tube, and that was the first go around for triples.
So what's your opinion now driving that triple charger setup? I mean, are you just absolutely in love with it right away?
Well, I'm not going to complain, because I don't think I could have. It's kind of, what do you say? You got, well, yeah, it put it in the lead. So, and it drove out, like you mentioned, the thing, it drove so smooth.
Yes, it did. It was a beautiful pass. Andrew wants to talk about, speaking of passes that don't always go that smooth. And this is one of the most common questions, most common talked about things, whether it be the methanol or the diesel 4-wheel drive truck guys. He wants to know about the bounce, Brady. What can you tell us about the infamous 4-wheel drive bounce? What causes it, and what do you do to prevent it or fix it?
I mean, a lot of it, I mean, I think our sport, is a lot of driver game. I mean, taking off, I mean, gosh, it's hard because, you let off the clutch, just a little too fast. It could catch a hard spot, start bouncing. And then once that pin gets going off the starting line, that can really hurt you. Louisville, we're 100 foot shorter than we normally are. So, tire pressure in the back, because you got more weight back there. Man, it just, you get a little dip in the track, and a tire sticks down in there and the other tire's up higher. I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into it all.
I was talking to Mr. Bramer. I believe he's kin to you in one capacity or another, and he told me a lot of it comes from your front end setup, including your suspension and your shocks, and just how tight or spongy you're running those. And he was a big believer, and he's a 4-time points champion, so I'm going to believe what he says. Yeah. He said a lot of that's on the front end side of things, ironically enough. Well, everyone sees the back mountain.
It's a combination of both, and he's adopted kid, okay? He calls me Uncle Larry, but then most of the other ones do. But no, I always tell everybody he's my nephew, but he's not really by blood, but by friendship. But no, he in the in the in the modified 4-wheel drive class, he's one of the better drivers. And just like these guys here, you can feel it by the seat of your pants, the feel. And if you get into it, but of all the classes, 4-wheel drive trucks, regardless of what fuel type, it's driver, about 80% of it. You can have all the power in the world, and if you don't drive it outright and it starts bouncing, I mean, you guys know better than anybody. It's over. But no, I've driven every division down the track, including semis and super farms, but I've never driven a 4-wheel drive. Why? I don't want to bounce and make a fool of myself. And I mean, Foster's offered it to me, Bramers have offered it to me, a couple other ones, but no, that's the only division I haven't driven because I'm a chicken and I know I would bounce. And so maybe someday at a non-points event when nobody's looking, I may try it. But there's a lot of driver there, and when you give the credit to all the power in the world that wins in the 4-wheel drive division, I give credit to the driver. So, but seriously, it's a matter of knowing how to come out, knowing how to let go of the clutch, how to get into the throttle. It's a combination all thereof.
And that's compounded on a shorter track. I've seen Jim Bosch not get on top of the throttle 100%. And I know we're talking, the methanol guys, but it's got to be comparable. He'll go out to 200 feet before he opens that thing wide open. If you wait to go full hook at 200 feet, I mean, you've got about 5 feet left before old Mr. Bauer is going to say stop inside Louisville. So.
Well, on an outdoor track, I mean, you watch the diesel 4-wheel drives, they don't really hook into the track and get a good shot until like 125, 150 feet. Would you agree with that, gentlemen? I mean, that's when the truck really hooks up and goes. If anybody needs a longer track to really perform, it's the diesel 4-wheel drives. And the short track is quite a challenge. And Louisville makes it even harder.
Larry, where we saw that this year in distances that I know you're a huge fan of was at the Enderley pull-off with the diesel super stock truck class. That looked like the NBA All-Star game, man. They were putting some points on the board. They were way out there.
Well, the NBA All-Star game has no defense. Whenever you have scores in the 150, 160, it's a shooting exhibition.
211. I looked it up before I got on here. 211 was the winning score for the NBA All-Star game this year. They had 100 at half.
But we're talking about diesel 4-wheel drives right now.
Hey, Brady, you guys were absolutely awesome. Brady and Keith, is there anyone that you want to thank before we take up too much of your time this evening?
Oh, yeah, I guess I'll go first. Got to thank Mom, Dad, both my brothers, James, his wife, Caitlin, all the family that helps out. My grandma and grandpa was in this, years ago. They always drug me around. So, got into it with them. And, got to thank Emma for, coming around to everything. All the guys back at Scheid, Joe Gasper, especially in the Effingham shop. I mean, he worked pretty hard to get, our truck and, Witt's ready for farm show, wherever I couldn't be there for college. Got to thank ProFab. The Petersons they're really good people. They keep our drive line together. Hot Shot Secret, Kyle Fisher. Can't say thank you enough to them guys. They drop everything for us. They've, like I said, down there at Louisville, this is our, third year on this motor. I mean, that's impressive. We've not touched nothing. Man, there's so many. I mean, Nichols Tire, they give us a great set of tires to run all year long. Gosh, I know I'm forgetting people, but Hart's Turbo, that great big old turbo we run, that sucker, it's been amazing. Can't thank all them guys enough. And then got to give a big shout out to Ed, Eric, and Colin Lewis. They let me skip out of work quite a lot to go pull and play in the dirt. So especially Colin came down there with me this weekend. I asked for a lot of pulls, and anything I asked for, he was right there by my side. So sure appreciate that.
Yeah, that's excellent. We appreciate all that. Keith, anybody you want to holler at tonight, sir?
Yeah, and one thing I really neglected there at the poll, my wife was standing right next to me, and I didn't. I'm very fortunate, is what Brady had kind of mentioned, that my wife, she goes along, Kyla, and she's my biggest fan. And like I say, and Brady, I want to thank you, because you're a big reason that this works as well as it does. Like I say, all the knowledge you've got, and Brad and Kent and everybody at Shides, it's I've been very fortunate to be able to get surrounded by such a fine group of people, and we pretty well use the same as I do same things as what Brady's got, and it's, I always say, successful people surround themselves by successful people, and I'd like to be one of them guys. I just got lucky this time.
Well, the luck is there's Larry. We're hanging out with some very lucky people tonight. It seems like we're gonna have to go buy a lottery ticket. So
No, we're hanging out with some very skilled people with very good equipment that actually put it to the ground. And that's the key. You can have all the power in the world, but if you can't drive it or get it to the ground, it don't matter. And Brady and they proved that they can do it. And
Miles Krieger said that. He said there's a big difference between having a winning caliber vehicle and winning with the caliber vehicle.
Exactly right.
So,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things too, with the super stock class. I mean, you look at, all the people, tube chassis or, you're nothing in the super stock class. Well, our truck still has that's a stock frame underneath it. It's got, supports underneath it, but it's not a full tube chassis. Same for crosswired. It's one of the things, you put enough time into it, and you're going to get results out of it.
That's awesome. Well, guys, congratulations. You called it in your interview. You drove it perfectly. You're two of the nicest people I think I've ever been around. First and second place teammates. Keith Witt with the American Pride and the 3 big Chargers on there goes first. Brady Ingram in the Shy Diesel with a single Charger, big Charger as he says, goes second. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for your time tonight, and good luck with the rest of your 2024 season.
Thank you guys very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
They're good guys. They seriously, 4-wheel drive is the most fickle class. You got to be on your game. That's all there is to it. I don't care what fuel type it is.
Yep. Got to put it to the ground. We see the Midnight Motorsports. Do we have the whole team, the whole crew? Do we have everybody ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, Bethany's going to be getting this.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you guys all for being on. We're hanging out with Jeremy and Jared and Bethany Nelson. Is that correct?
Yep.
Awesome. So I bugabooed this up a little bit. I'm going to run my intro here, and I'm going to run you guys through my thought process. And I wrote an article about this today that we're going to be posting on the Beer Money Pulling website, and it kind of tied in nicely. There is a certain app. There's a certain pulling app out there, and I won't say which one. And as I was using this pulling app to double check all my standings and all the winners and everything, I pulled it up. And it said winner of the Saturday night 2-wheel drive truck class, Jeremy Nelson. And I was like, all right, let's go. Let's rock and roll. So I messaged Jeremy and I said, hey, man, can you come on the podcast? And he's like, no problem, but you better reach out to Jared and Bethany. And I start going back through everything, and I realized I have kind of made the wrong assumption here. Now, give me a little credit. I didn't confuse you guys with the Texas Nelsons, so it could have been worse, So, but in my defense, and this is the story I want to talk about, we did a little sharing of the driving all week long. So even though it was Jared who did win in his truck, brother Jeremy kind of helped everyone out and qualified that truck. Do you guys want to kind of tell us the story and kind of clear the waters for everyone out there watching tonight?
Well, don't feel bad. Everybody was confused. Dan Mayer was confused still Saturday night because he announced it was Jeremy. So, but in his defense, Saturday we was still trying to decide who was going to drive. So I guess even we was confused. So there was a lot of jockeying going on.
So you guys, the story that I saw, and this is just, an awesome representation. Pulling is a family sport, and families do everything they can to support each other. So there's a pretty big basketball game going on, right? We had a regional championship, Illinois regional championship basketball game being played. So Jared, you weren't able to drive on, was that Thursday night?
Correct. Thursday night. Yep.
Okay.
We was back in Illinois Thursday night.
Okay. So you were not able to drive on Thursday night. So brother Jeremy hops up in the truck and qualifies. Jeremy, you qualified it on Thursday night. Is that right?
Yep, we ended up third with it Thursday night, so qualified us for Saturday.
You kind of talked to the crowd a little bit and told them about the difference. What's it like hopping in brother's truck compared to your truck? And for people who don't know, they're pretty different styles of trucks when it comes to the bodies and fiberglass on them. So tell everyone about that.
Yeah, if you take the bodies out of it, I mean, they're basically identical, other than his throttle's a little different than mine. But, the body's the main difference. But I'd never even sat in that thing running, yet alone with the body down, yet alone in front of 15,000 people. So all I'm thinking is, don't screw this up, because I don't want to look like an idiot, and I don't want to look like an idiot for Jared. So I will say I was more nervous Thursday night. I mean, you always get nerves and butterflies going at Louisville, but that Thursday night, that was something different. That driving somebody else's truck, now I'm not just going to let myself down. I'm going to let myself and my brother down. So I will say that I was glad when that was over. That was the most relieving run, I think, outside of when I drove John's truck in 19. But my emotions was a wreck that night, so I don't even remember half of it. But I remember this one quite well, and it was pretty nerve-wracking.
And the story gets even more interesting. So we'll hop down here and talk to Bethany for a bit. So Bethany, you qualify your truck. Your truck's been dominant at Louisville and dominant all the way across the board. I mean, everyone recognizes that awesome paint job and that awesome body style. So you just kind of take care of business on, would it have been Friday night?
Correct. Yep.
So now you're in the finals. Jared's truck is in the finals. You guys are able to be back in Louisville after the ball game. You're kind of jockeying for who's going to drive Jared's truck. I assume somewhere along the line, Jeremy and Jared said, okay, Jared's going to drive his truck. Now, there's not great odds. Surely there's no way you guys are going to hook back-to-back first and second, right? But for anyone who didn't go to Louisville, tell them the draw that you guys got.
Yeah, we did. Which Jared knew he had the number 2 hook already Friday. So then when I got in the finals, though, we were sitting in the stands Friday night after I pulled, and I said I would do anything to have that number 1 hook. Because actually, like anybody that goes to Louisville real often knows that number 1 hook isn't a bad place to be. So really, it kind of worked out well, other than it was him and I almost was selfish and wanted him to not drive and let Jeremy drive. That way I could have my normal routine and him backing me in like normal, but it worked out okay.
Well, probably just as much okay or more than okay, because not only did you guys hook first and second, tell the world where you finished.
Well, I won and she got second, which
isn't this a what's mine is yours and yours is mine kind of establishment? Isn't that what she's on the top? I love Misty's over here shaking her head. She's like, nuh-uh, not even close.
No, it's always a fun D to get first and second, whether it be a team truck or, me and Bethany or Jeremy and Misty, whatever. But to do it down there is just something, honestly, it's probably never even been thought of happening. And it was, when we took the lead and then was in the first, second, and the first couple other trucks ran, then it kind of started to sit in like, man, we really could possibly pull this off. And didn't dream of it actually coming through and happening, but yeah, it's still pretty surreal.
Larry, you've been around pulling, I'll say this very nicely, longer than I have.
Whoa. Nicely?
No, long. I'm not going to use any numbers or qualifiers, just longer than me.
Misty, I I don't think Mike's nice to me. He said he was going to be gentle, but I think he just called me an old fart. What do you got?
Those are your words, not mine. Here's the trivia question I want you to tell me, Mr. History Buff. Husband and wife pullers, finishing first and second. Can you picture any other who has done this at Louisville before? Did we make Louisville history this past weekend?
I believe we did.
It'd be hard to imagine.
Yeah, I think we did.
Are you guys still on cloud nine? I was telling everybody, I don't drive. I just, talk.
We know
Louisville tired is a whole different kind of tired being back here in Missouri. Are you guys feeling Louisville tired, or are you on cloud nine because you're looking at those first and second place trophies still?
Probably still trying to soak it all in. We don't even have both trucks back, we didn't have our new hauler done, so we hauled separately. Jeremy still has Bethany's truck up with him. So I kicked out mine yesterday and started getting the trophies out, and it's like, man, we really did do this, but then back to work today, and like I said, it just really hadn't even set in, getting all the texts from everybody and the congratulatory texts. But other than that, it really hasn't set in yet, honestly.
So let's slide back over to Jeremy here. So after driving the typical or traditional cab style truck and then jumping back in and driving your, I heard you describe it as a van. What's your preferred, do you call it a van or do you call it a delivery truck, a big body style truck? Are we going to see you driving the traditional pickup truck style now, or are you going to just have to go out there and beat brother in your style and kind of show them how it's done?
I'm not ready to give up mine just yet. I like to kick back and have plenty of room. And I drove Misty's truck and John's truck. That's a traditional cab, you call it. But even in them, you're hunched down. I mean, your head's against the roof and your arms against the back wall. And in my van, I don't have none of them problems. I can lean back as far as I need to and stretch out, and I don't hit nothing. So and that's all I've drove since I was 16 was the van. I've drove some other ones, but that's kind of been mine. So that's where home is. But once you got all that out of your mind, and I got back to the sled, because it's a lot harder to back a truck body than it is my van body, because just the turning around factor. But once we got that done, then it was just like, same office, just different view kind of thing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm sitting here chuckling when you're talking about those traditional cab style trucks. They were smaller back in the day. And when you say you felt scrunched in, I can just picture these old pictures I had when I was a kid of Roger Simon. And he had basically like a cutout in the top of it. And you could see his helmet. I mean, it's like he had a moonroof. And I don't know if he was darn near looking over the top or under the bottom. Is that about how you felt? You felt like you were scrunched in there and ready to cut a hole out the top of it?
But no, I ain't cutting no hole in the top, because I've seen people do that, and I'll drive it sideways before I did that. There's just some things I'm not going to do. But it was tight, and so tight that I had just repainted my helmet, and I sat in the truck and put a helmet on, and Miles was there, and he's like, your helmet's going to be right against the roof. And I'm like, I said, go give me Jared's helmet. Well, I got his out, and his was all scratched up on the top. I'm like, yeah, his must hit, so mine's going to hit. So I'm wearing his helmet because it's scratched up. So I put mine away.
Oh man, these are great stories, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. I love that we have the whole team on here. You're one of the most well-known, well-recognized, well-respected, and successful teams in two-wheel drive truck pulling and all of truck pulling. Misty, how do you keep all these brothers in line, and what advice do you give any of them when they're out there driving? Obviously you've got your truck too, and it's a beautiful ride as well. So, how do you keep this whole crew in line all the time?
Well, I don't try to keep them in line much. Maybe Jeremy, but I let Bethany take care of Jared. But, just like Thursday night when Jeremy was getting ready to run Jared's truck, it's like, you know what you're doing. Get in the truck and do your thing. Go out there and drive. Don't stress about it. Do your thing.
Do people ever confuse you? So I got confused between Jeremy and Jared. And I know I'm talking to the ladies here with Misty and Bethany. Do people ever confuse you guys also with the Nelsons down in Texas being all two-wheel drive truck pullers here? Do you ever accidentally get called Mindy, or do one of you gentlemen get called Dawn because they don't know? I mean, what are the odds of two Nelson families and 6 two-wheel drive trucks all sharing the same last name? I said if there's ever a midnight whip, we're really going to be in trouble, because that's just going to confuse everybody out there.
I don't think I've ever been mistaken. It's really, other than Louisville and then the occasional, like Jeremy and them went out west this year, but we really don't see them much other than Louisville, honestly. So
one of you went down to Whiteride, I thought. Who was that?
Yep.
What was that experience like, playing on the other side of the river and going just talk, Texas, pulling down there? Is that different soil? And what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was hot.
Yeah, very hot.
Like really hot. Like imagine, I don't know, I've never been to Chapel Hill. They say that's the hottest pull, but
oh heavens,
ain't no way it was hotter than Whiteride. But we had good luck down there. Misty won the first night, so I mean, can't say we didn't make the trip worth it, but man, it was hot.
And then Jeremy, was it you or was it Jared that went out to Rock Valley with Craig and had big success out there as well?
That was us. Yeah, me and Craig, Craig's truck and my trailer, and we took the other 2 trucks out, and me and the boys, kind of a guy's trip, last minute thing, and went out there and had a ball there. I was hoping to make the trip back out there, but I think we have PPL hooks booked that weekend, so I'm not sure we're going to make it this year if we're in the points hunt at that time. But it's fairly early, so I suspect we'll stick around home and be loyal to them pulls. But Rock Valley is definitely one on the list that if there's not a conflict, I'm going back to.
What did Ashley say about Craig taking her truck out there? Was that an ask for forgiveness instead of permission kind of deal, or was her stamp of approval on it the whole way?
Us girls let him go. Us girls went jeeping while the boys went pulling.
Get out of our hair for a little bit. Go play in Iowa. Bethany, I want to come back over to you. I've only been to Louisville twice, but each time I've been, your vehicle has had resounding success. I was there in 2020. And I want to say that you might have won or finished high up in there, and you got second this time. What's it mean to you to pull at Louisville, and just kind of tell everyone what it's like from the driver's seat of your pickup truck down there?
So, yeah, well, the last time I actually pulled at Louisville before this year was 2020 also. We hadn't put in for the 2 years in between because of basketball conflicts, and the one year we didn't run the whole series, so we knew we probably didn't have a chance to get in anyways. So, yeah, I guess, one way to put it is I'm kind of spoiled when it comes to Louisville because my truck normally makes pretty good laps there. Usually I'm super nervous at Louisville. Compared to other pulls, it does tend to be one that you get a little more nervous. You're inside. It's the only place I pull it that I have a sand pile at the end that you have to worry about. And our body man up in the corner doesn't like to redo bodies, so we try to be gentle on him. So, but yeah, actually this year I was surprisingly a little more relaxed. Jeremy had already done the job of getting Jared's truck in, and usually that's the goal, to at least get one truck in. So I almost kind of felt like there wasn't a whole lot of pressure. And Louisville this year it was surprisingly funner as a driver. There wasn't so much pressure to just come out and see how quick you can get on it. You could actually drive your truck out a little bit and have some success. So it was a lot of fun, pretty relaxed and fun, and a good time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well said. Larry, you said the only vehicle you haven't drove is a 4-wheel drive truck, which tells me you have driven a 2-wheel drive.
Well, in 1982, I quit running mod class and decided to take my turbine tractor and put a Chevrolet body on it and make a 2-wheel drive. NTPA told me I couldn't do that, so I did anyway. And I ran exhibition at several events here in the Midwest and in about one season, and paid for what it took to convert a 5 and 7 mod tractor into a 2-wheel drive. And then I sold it, but NTPA said, no, we won't allow that. All right. So I did anyway. That's pretty much why I've had jobs, lost jobs, whatever. I just pretty much did whatever I wanted to do. And it was very successful. And I made a rule that what I would charge for an exhibition was whatever first place paid that day in the 2-wheel drive class. And I'd go out and put on a fire show and make a pass. But I always asked the sled to light it up just a touch so it looked spectacular. And I had great success and made great photos with a jet-powered 1989 2-wheel drive body on basically a mod tractor. Took the big tires off, put the little tires on, moved the hitch up on top of the rear end of a log skidder, and had a hell of a time. But yes, I have driven a 2-wheel drive, but it had the wrong kind of power in it. That's all I can say.
Little bit different power plant. That's Larry. That's awesome. that's too cool.
That's typical Larry, though, and about all of them, especially Misty and Jeremy, can testify. That's pretty much typical Richwine, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's why we love him so much.
Yeah.
I want to hear everybody's best Larry Richwine story.
Oh,
We'll flip the script.
We don't have time for that.
We don't. Oh man, Larry, I'm sure. So this is a team that you've worked with, all sorts over the years. I mean, They just seem like they do things absolutely top notch.
Well,
I want to hear from all four of you. So all four of you pull 2-wheel drive trucks. And we'll just kind of go left to right across the screen. We'll go Jeremy, Misty, Jared, Bethany in that order. Biggest win to you personally in your truck or driving for someone else? What's your biggest 2-wheel drive truck win? Which one stands out and means the most to you in your careers driving in this awesome class?
Well, I'd say Louisville, but I haven't won Louisville, so I can't say that. So I'm going to say probably Bowling Green, Ohio. We went there once and won a single session, and then we went back and we didn't win, but I was in the ring running with Randy Petro, and we won the ring. So those two stick out in my mind.
I probably have to say Wilmington, Ohio, in the blue truck. Very first pass in the blue truck, and got the win that night. So
awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, those are big wins. No doubt about it. Jared, biggest win for you, buddy?
Well, probably up until Louisville, I would probably say Bowling Green. But after this year, I'm going to stick with it's got to be the farm show now.
That's interesting. So you have one at both places, and both of them are kind of considered, the Super Bowl of truck and tractor pulling, or the Daytona or whatever. One's indoor and one's outdoor. That's neat to compare those side by side. So Louisville sticks out more to you. I'll go ahead and ask the question. Why is that? What kind of makes that so much more special?
I don't know. You look at Bowling Green, it's probably the biggest outdoor pull, and then you look at Louisville, and it's what everybody's known for, the Super Bowl of indoor pulls. So I don't know, maybe just more prestigious. We've actually almost went 1-2 at Bowling Green. I don't remember what year that was.
I think I went 3.
Yeah, we were sitting 1 and 2, and I'm pretty sure Randy Petro was last hook and stuck in between us. So we finished first and third that year, so that was pretty cool. But still, farm show this year, I don't know if anything will ever top that.
That's awesome. Larry, you were trying to get my attention, and I didn't see you down there. Were you saying, Mike, shut up?
I wasn't trying to get your attention. I was thumping my chest.
Oh,
they've all done some
I thought you were like, there's a story there. Don't go there. Don't go.
About all of them, at one time or another, every division have seen me when they come back to the track, either after they won or they're in the pull off. I'll do this trackside, and then go like that. And I don't know. When you're as large as I am, you have to have visual effects.
I told Jason this weekend, strong, when I identify myself, strong speaker, poor listener. So you got to make sure that you're really getting the message across when I get on my kick and start talking a lot here. So I saw the hand signals and I was like, oh.
We know that, Mike. We know that. What about Bethany? What's her most memorable win? Like point races?
So I don't get to say Bowling Green because I actually had Bowling Green one year, and I was going by the flag, and then I accidentally ran over to the left chalk line also. So I got DQ'd on a winning run at Bowling Green. So that was fun.
That'll happen.
So
That'd be the most heartbreaking pass.
it was almost more heartbreaking for Jared. I'm not gonna lie. But it was,
He still ended up what? Second, third?
Yeah. So there was only 3 in the pull off. So I still ended up third. But I think what really got him was that's when they do the top 3 pass. I think he was the fourth one. So I bumped him out from being in the pull off, and then I ran out of bounds. So I really think he thought he would have won. That's what it comes down to. I can remember a real fun win for me, which Wheatland, Missouri has always been a pretty fun pull. And in 2020, it was a shortened COVID season, and we got to end our year at Wheatland. And I was running for a points championship, and I took the truck on way past the leader flag, won Wheatland, and it wrapped up a points championship that year. So that was a pretty memorable night in general. We were coming off our 2019 shit show. And so it was really nice to get a championship and then the win. And then I'm going to go with Jared here, though. Friday night, Louisville this year, it's probably going to go into pretty close there. For me, for Louisville, and I think all of us, you start going to Louisville when you're so young and you see these big names down on the track at Louisville, and you're just like, man, sometime I would love to be there. I can remember like Dusty Arfons being at Louisville and seeing, and some of these women that paved the way. Lisa Tatum had a lot of success at Louisville early on. And so, you kind of dream the crowd there, they're all sitting on top of you, at all these other pools at Bowling Green. I mean, the numbers are huge, but at Louisville, you're in an indoor stadium and everybody's got eyes on everybody on that track. It's just a different atmosphere on the excitement. So I'm going, Louisville definitely is a pretty high up there for me now.
That's awesome. And kind of at our post-game show right after Louisville, that's hitting the nail on the head. And I love the way you describe it with the atmosphere there. There's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. You've got 17,000 people right on top of you, and you've got everything on display right there. So to be able to get it done there, that's awesome. You touched on something else I really like, icons and role models that got you all into pulling. Is that the same? I think Bethany gave a great answer talking about people who got her into pulling and inspired her at Louisville. Is that the same for all of you? Did you all have someone that you looked up to? How'd we all get started in this? How'd the Midnight Motorsports become the dominant force that it is today? And I'll just let you guys run with that.
Well, really, I mean, our dad is the one, mine and Jeremy's dad, Dale, is the one that got us hooked. I mean, he'd been pulling forever. And that's kind of what started, when we was growing up, we're like, oh, I mean, it's just, you didn't think about not doing it. You was just expecting to drive when you got old enough to. And then we just, I think when I got old enough, we acquired the C cab, which, turned into be my first truck, and then, it turned into the body truck after that. But we just grew up around it. But I'd say for me, it was probably like the Walshes and the Longs back in the day, when Ricky had the Willie Make It pink truck. And then the Walshes were big names back then. Them were probably some of the ones that I looked up to when I was coming up through the ranks.
Yeah, the Irish Challenger truck. I'd forgotten about that, but man, that thing's iconic. That's an awesome answer. Jeremy and Misty, did you guys have people that inspired you to be here too, or is it going to be a lot just like what Jared said there with coming from your father and some of these iconic pullers from the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, a lot of the same, the Walsh brothers, but there's one in there that probably was a closer influence than, going along with Dad, is watching him come up through the ranks was Kenny Lamont in the Midnight Express. Because I remember when he didn't even know of him, and then he rolled that new truck out, and I was just a little kid, but I remember seeing that thing, and it just like blew my mind. Like, wow, this thing's next level. And then he'd show up at some ITPA polls, which that's all we ran then. And it was like, you was starstruck, and he'd come over. Him and Dad was buddies, and he'd still talk to us. We went down there and bought parts from him, but he was probably the number one idol. And then when we got to really following the national stuff, more, it was the Walsh brothers and the Longs and people like that you just, you couldn't help but envy them. And then when we started running against some of them, it was like, wow, we're really doing this. And we got our butts handed to us for a lot of years. But then when we finally got to the level where we could compete, it was just a very humbling experience.
That's well said. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to ask Misty and Bethany a question, and I don't know the answer to this, and maybe I should, but this is a true question. And Larry, if this is a stupid question, halfway through say, Mike, this is a stupid question. You should know the answer to that.
There are no stupid questions other than the one that nobody had the guts to ask. But you didn't ask Misty who her inspiration was, and I know the answer, but God love her.
Misty, who's your inspiration?
My dad.
That's actually going to answer the question I was going to ask, and it's how did you ladies get into the sport of pulling? Tell us the story of your father.
So my dad grew up here where Jeremy and I live, and neighbor about a mile away had a mod tractor, and Dad helped him work on that tractor and went pulling with him in the summertime. My grandpa also had a mod tractor, and so that's how my dad and mom met, was pulling. And watching Dad, sit on the ITPA board and being a ITPA flag track official. I looked at him one day and said, Dad, that's what I want to do. I want to flag with you. And so for years we would officiate together, and I've known Larry for an awful long time doing officiating. And that's how I met Jeremy.
We were interviewing Bill Casey, the driver of the Whoopie Maker, and we got on the discussion of how important and overlooked and underrated the job of a flagman is. And especially even at Louisville, that 250-foot or 300-foot to finish line flagman, the judgment calls that have to be made down there and at a short and indoor track. The people who put on pulls, it's like a basketball game, and you guys know that basketball is something that's near and dear to you as well. When you don't notice the officials are there, that means they've done an excellent job, and so the people that run the flags and make those decisions, I mean, that's one of those things that we couldn't do this without them, and they play such a pivotal role in what that, what happens in the world of pulling. So I love that answer, because everybody's got a story about, pulling a tractor 350 feet, but to get down to the nitty gritty like that is just really, really cool. Bethany, did you grow up in the world of pulling as well, or did you get drug into all this and it's just become a part of what you do now?
No, yep. So I actually, which a lot of people don't know, but my family, my uncle and my cousin campaigned a light super on the ITPA. It was called Steel Dreams back in early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. So ran around with like the Doug Leak and the Tommy Nixons of the world, if you've ever heard those names. But so I ran around with them and just kind of fell in love with the pulling world. My cousin also sat on the ITPA board. It's kind of when I got to start knowing Misty a little more. I did know Misty before we both dated Nelsons. So through the ITPA pulling circuit. And we all just ran around every summer at county fairs all over Illinois and the state fair, and had a ton of fun. And then I did actually pilot that light super probably 3 or 4 times when I was like 16, 17. And then I went away to college, and they decided that they didn't have enough interest with me being gone to stay in it. So they ended up selling the little light super. So, but I definitely got started with our family's tractor.
When did you move over to 2-wheel drive, and will we ever see you in a light super ever again?
Yeah, so I think I drove Jared's C cab a couple times before we got married, actually. So I drove his C cab a few times, and that was fun. And then we went off and got married, and we had kids. So I didn't actually jump in a 2-wheel drive full time again until like 2014, I believe, was the year. Yeah, that we ran Terry Joe Stark's Wild One truck. So as far as a light super, highly doubt. It's way easier to get parts for a 2-wheeler, first of all. I remember waiting around on parts a lot, and I just Yeah, the two-wheeler is pretty fun. I kind of like the blown motors.
Maybe the mini rod.
I would love to see that. If you guys built a mini rod, what would you call it?
Well, we actually have one. We're going to campaign this year.
Oh, that's right. I did hear about that, and it is named. It is named. Tell the world its name.
It's midnight,
dude. So what's the midnight theme? Tie this all into the world. Where'd this come to be, and what's the story there?
Dad's very first truck, his 4-wheel drive days, was called the Moonlighter, and then when he added a second truck, and that's when the 2-wheel drive class was first coming into play, he needed a second truck, he thought, for whatever reason. One a full-time 2-wheel drive, and then I think one was going to stay 4-wheel drive instead of going back and forth. And the first 2-wheel drive truck, he come up with the name Midnight Gambler, and it's just stuck. And he quit pulling for several years there, and we come back, and him and I went to Wisconsin and got the panel van from John Potts, and we tossed around names, it seemed like, for months. And then one day he's like, we're going to name it Midnight Gambler. I'm like, okay, why did we spend all this time hashing names out? But then that was Midnight Gambler. So then when we added the second truck, it had to be Midnight something. So that's when the Midnight Revenger come about. And then we've just slowly played off that. So there's Gambler, Revenger. Where'd we go from there?
Well, with Bethany's, we just kind of rolled it off, something to tie together with Midnight Revenger. So hence the Sweet Revenge, just something to still tie it together yet.
And then with Dad's, we went with After Midnight because Dad had never really drove a truck drove anything until he drove Jeremy's truck at Greenup. And so it's like, well, we'll call it After Midnight because he was hooked after he drove Midnight Gambler. So
and then because things dawn on me slowly, half past midnight because it's smaller and it's not as big and everything, and half past being an express. Yeah, thank you, Larry.
I'm just saying, aren't you a school teacher?
The Missouri public education is in rough sorts right now. I'm just going to leave it at that.
So now you want more money?
Well, the Illinois, man, they take care of their teachers over there, but the Missouri, they cross the river and you get what you pay for on this side of the Mississippi.
So the show me state, you still got to show them before you get a better. I'll shut up.
Yeah, we can count. We can count all the way to 9 most of the time.
Well, apparently that pony doesn't run over there. If you didn't hear about the mini rod announcement, because that's old news. That's what, Christmas time?
Christmas Day.
That's that's a Missouri. That's the old 1X, isn't it?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
So it was out your way.
Yeah, he was from somewhere like kind of South Central or Southwest Missouri.
That doesn't make up for you not remembering that was an announcement a good bit ago, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
strong speaker, poor listener.
Matt actually.
And where is Jason Schultz? Now he's given those duties to you to run the show, and geez.
I'm just lucky I figured out who was Jeremy and who was Jared before we went live.
Did you hear Kinsey chuckling like that? Yeah.
Oh man, this is fun. Larry, you've known these guys for a long time. Give us some great Midnight Motorsports stories.
The best story I've got is they're a good family that pulls together, and you can always count on them when you look at our lineup or you're down at the starting line like I usually am or used to be all the time. And you're looking at where you're going to go. And after the first 1 or 2 runs, you're thinking, oh my God, we might be a little tight, but who's going to bail me out? If one of their vehicles is coming up, you're going to get bailed out. And no matter which one of them it is of the 4, you're going to have a good pass. And 9 times out of 10, they'll bail your ass out when the sun's Yep.
That's awesome.
They're good kids, and me being the elder on the screen, but I've enjoyed watching all of them as they come up and be successful and be champions in their own right, win championships. And yeah, I've had a good run, and their parents and everybody's been part of it.
I couldn't have said it, but that's awesome. That's awesome.
Amen.
2024 plans, goals. Where will we see you in 2024? And who do we need to thank for everything that we've accomplished? We'll call this the end of the 2023 season.
It's the start of the 24.
Well,
they're all going to be pulling at this new sign behind me.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll probably hit most of the Pro Pulling League, I'm sure. And then, our local ITPA. We try to hit as many of them as we can in between. As far as that, I mean, Toma, Bowling Green, for sure.
And then Louisville, Kentucky, hopefully in 2025.
Hopefully, yep.
Yep.
We do good enough to deserve it, yeah.
No.
Well, it all depends on this one sitting next to me on whether I'm going to get a drive this summer or not. He's got to get Tanner's truck put together for me because we sold the chassis under Dad's truck and parking it for a year because it needs the body needs some TLC and needed some upgrades. So I'm going to steal the kids' truck for a summer.
So do you know a decent body man or one that does pretty good paint jobs?
Maybe.
If you can get him to do it, he's okay, I heard. But
if you're like everybody else, if you're a mechanic, you don't want to work on your own stuff. If you're a paint and body man, you probably don't want to work on your own stuff.
It don't pay very well either. I've noticed.
No, I know, but I do have to say of those that are painters and those that do custom paint jobs and everything else, I don't know anybody better than Jeremy.
Well, and now the problem is we've got the Mini, so Tanner's just kind of like, if my truck gets done, whatever, we got the Mini, I'll drive it.
There you go.
Do you guys have anyone that you need to thank before we take up too much more of your time this evening?
Well, for sure, we got a lot of people that help make this team go around. The obvious is, our wives, our crew. I can't even name them, but a lot of them was on the track with us. There's some that just stay at home and, do the thankless things at home, but every little thing helps to let us do what we do. And, our engine builder, Sassy Engines, I mean, it's finally coming we've been working on this program hard for 3-4 years. And Louisville, I feel like it's finally starting to reach its potential. So it should be an exciting summer with that. Chad Mayhill on the tires. He does great. Molly Clevi, they've come on board. So they've been great supporters of us. What?
Did you see your son? He said, that's not true. My truck is more important than the Mini.
No, I can't talk and read at the same time. So
hey, I understand, bud. I understand. I'm sitting next to him next time.
I don't know who I left out. Somebody else can take over. But
Misty, anybody that you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I gotta thank Jeremy, of course, for doing all the work on the trucks, and Tanner and Brady and Jared and Bethany with all their help, and Molly Clevite. They've been on board for the last couple years with us, and we gotta thank them. Jared, Bethany.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Jared, anybody you want to thank, bud?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the one that really probably got us to the next level, I'd say, the Barbie crew down there with Full Pull Motorsports. That's really when I felt like we kind of turned the corner when, he built my first, tube chassis. Now we have 3 of them. So him, Chad Mayhill, with our tires, of course, he's the guy that, especially here lately, gets kind of thrown under the bus at times and had to, do more homework to try to make, his stuff better. But we've stuck with him, and, he's always helped us out, and, we can't thank him enough for everything he does for us too. Plus everybody, like Jeremy said, everybody at home, our workers, our employees that pitch in here and there or take care of stuff with the, our trucking company when we sneak off for the weekend and bail out. There's always them people that don't ever get any credit for helping with the pulling side that are there doing work for us yet.
Yeah, absolutely. That Chad Mayhill's name has come up several times tonight. He a lot of winners have been mentioning his name after this weekend. Bethany, anybody you want to thank? Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I think we've hit on all of them. I think all of us would thank our parents, because if it wouldn't be for them getting us involved in the sport of pulling, we would not be here. I mean, it took all of us and our families introducing us to pulling, where we met our spouses and then have continued on. The other thing I'd say with our team that's pretty cool is, I mean, our kids, they're getting a little older now. So they do, I got girls that have a social life, and Misty does too, but we've drugged them around pools since they were born. And so it's a total family thing. We've made so many memories up and down the road. The pulling's fun, and we remember some of these big wins, but we probably remember just as much some of the fun memories and the fun things that we've done along the way, just along with the pool. So
can't do it without family. It takes a village, and it takes everybody. Speaking of family, I guess we can't not ask this question to tie it all back in together. How'd the ball game go? Are we going to state?
Well, we won our regional championship the other night, which was the Thursday night we stayed at home, or I come back home. So now we play tomorrow night, actually, for sectional.
we got to win sectional before we can win state.
Yeah. So we have another tough matchup tomorrow night.
Yeah.
We go regional, sectional, quarterfinal, state.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Perfect.
just semifinals. No, I think it is quarterfinal state. Yeah. Then
Perfect.
semi. So
Perfect.
we still got some big wins we got to pick up. No doubt.
Yep. Well, it looks like that's what this family does, though, is pick up big wins. We've seen that tonight, so.
We try. Yep.
Man, this has been fun. Larry, these guys are awesome.
Yeah, you know what? Good family, good competition. And you guys have heard me say it, and you guys are part of it. That's the only reason I love the sports, the people in it. And we've got family memories. You guys do too.
Yep.
The things we've done, the people we've met that we would have never had an opportunity if it hadn't have been for Truck and Tractor.
Exactly.
Yep. 100%. Yep.
Yeah.
Spot on. Well, guys, on behalf of the Beer Money Pulling Team and the Let's Grow Pulling podcast, I know I was messaging you guys late at night after a huge weekend. I know I was messaging you early on a work day. Thank you so much for taking your time out on a Monday night to do this with us. You guys are awesome. The fans love this. It's a chance to kind of peel back the curtain and see everything that makes all of this happen. So thank you for interviewing with us. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your night. Pulling is fun. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Larry.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks,
Thank you,
Larry.
guys.
See ya. No problem. My pleasure.
So, Larry, here's where we go to the Let's Grow Pulling After Dark. And I have something I've been dying to tell you. I did something that I don't typically do, and you've been telling me to do. I watched the Saturday night finals at Louisville, Kentucky from about the 30-foot mark. I sat at the starting line. I always sit at 300 plus, and I watched the whole show from the starting line, and I'll be damned if I don't stand corrected. That is just about got to be the place to watch a pull.
Lisbeth is a big one. I'm coming to Lisbeth. What? Well, every spot on the track has its high points to watch. But when you watch the starting line, there's so many things going on at once that you don't realize. There's so many things with the sled. There's so many things with the drivers. There's so many ways of driving out of the hole. I mean, the end of the track is awesome. How far can I go? The throttle's wide open. But getting it down the track and when to open that throttle. So you were impressed with my knowledge, or were you impressed with my point of view?
I was impressed with all of it. A whole shot. Man, you don't truly understand putting the power to the ground. And just getting an opportunity to see so many of those finer points and watching the technicians and watching the flagmen and watching, Vaughn and the sled operator. And they're busy. I mean, there's a lot going on, but watching them come off the line and being up there where you can, actually see the footwork with the clutch and see the throttle work and then see the tires hook up, and you feel it a lot more because it brings it up a whole lot more quickly. If you're one of those guys who's like me and always love the money side of the track and the full pull, go sit at about 30 feet. There's a lot to be seen right there. That makes it a lot of fun.
It's impressing the skill sets of not only the drivers, but like the sled. There's so many variables in that sled that can be adjusted to determine how far they go by basically how good they come out of the hole. And no, I've watched from all angles, but I watched from the starting line for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of takeoffs. But it really is impressive. I'm glad you got a chance to look at it. And now, when you go to an event, you're going to say, "This class I'll watch the finish in, and maybe this class I'll watch the starting in." One of the best classes to watch on the starting end, in my mind, is the 4-wheel drive, whether it's diesel, methanol, whatever. But those guys seriously have to drive so perfect to get it to the first 100 feet. It's a lot of stuff going on.
It's really neat. I like your point about, so we Facebook user here. I'm assuming this is someone you used to work with. I wish we could see him here. He says, "I missed my starting line fist bump." That's something that's really cool too. So as flagman, the finishing line fist bump and the beginning fist bump, is that just part of the brotherhood of pulling? Is that something you try to make sure you give every driver no matter what?
Well, I tried to. Jim Miller's the best at it, giving everybody a fist bump. But my I guess the best pleasure I have of starting line watching and being a part of is just how well they launch it and how I feel like they did a good job, and maybe I backed them in without bang hitting the sled or whatever. But you want to know the most memorable launch? It was a pull off. I can't tell you what year. Bill Voorhees had on 5 engines, and he couldn't get them all running without it wanting to jump in gear and take off. So he left 2 of them off, and the left 2 engines were not running. He pulls on the track with 3 engines, backs up to the sled and starts it. And he said, before he did it, he said, "Larry, can I start these engines on the track?" I said, "Bill, I don't care when you start them, as long as you go down the track." So he came out with 3, backed up, hooked up, tightened the chain up, and about 25 foot, he reaches up and pushes the pedal to engage the left 2 engines. They fired and went right out the gate.
So you talk about a launch.
Oh my God, that was awesome. And it was a very impressive launch, but he happened to win, but it wouldn't matter if it won or not. The fact that he had the thought pattern or the clarity that he could reach up there and start those last 2 engines at basically full throttle on the other 3 engines, and they lit and they hooked and it went. So, but Bill didn't have the luck he wanted this time when he came back. Of course, he hadn't run but 2 or 3 times. He got the tractor built back, and he didn't get the finish he wanted. But still, not just Bill Voorhees. There's stories on all of them. But the bottom line is, I like to think that I had a part in that, and just the fact that I got to witness it. I've been so blessed in the sport of pulling. What I've seen, what I've been a part of. I just, But the full pull is not always what you need to watch. You need to watch that first 100 feet, and I'm glad you went down and did it.
I really did, and I enjoyed it. I now feel that truck and tractor pulling, it'd be like saying that all baseball is watching home runs. There's so much more to what can be absorbed and to what can be seen. And the whole shots and the launches that we saw this week, and you talking about Bill Voorhees rolling it out there. And I can't remember if it's Terry or Josh Blackburn, but the way they can crawl, they can just crawl that thing for the first 7, 10, 15 feet. And then you swear the tires are going to completely blow off, but they don't, because they've rolled it out there and just hooked. That's what that makes me think of. And that's pretty wild and pretty impressive to see.
That's all clutch control and driving. You hear the term driving by the seat of your pants. But it's all about the launch, that you could get the speed, because basically it's like pulling a rock behind you. If you take off running with a rock, you might go further than if you just drug the rock. But it's but seriously, there's a lot of things to the science of being successful in pulling, and you'll learn a lot at the starting line. You might want to sit down there some more.
Who's the guy? So when you're sitting at 300 feet, you see the 300-foot flagman, you see the 100-foot flagman, but there's kind of a third role player down there, a third official, and he might be the big boss dog of all of them. And he's the one who checks the hitch and checks that the hook is in the hitch. And then he's the first one to point to anybody. He'll point to the 250 or the 300 flagman, who will then point back to the 100, and then we get it going. What do you call that guy's role? Who is that?
Usually it's the event manager or the head official.
Mhm.
Personally, when I drive a pulling vehicle, all I look for is a green flag from the starting line and green flag from the finish line. And then I never see an official. I don't need an official to tell me that I need to stop. I stop when either an A spins in and I realize I'm not moving, B goes bang, or C, whenever the flagman's jumping in front of me going like this. But and a lot of pullers that way. They'll make sure there's oil pressure on the gauge. When they tighten the chain, they'll hammer it. But after years and years and years and years of pulling, then they have a chance to maybe notice other things going on. But with today's data loggers, they can pull it up on a computer later and see what went wrong. But no, on a short track like that, and the fact now that also you may not have noticed, you should have. Not only is there a starting line and a finish line flagman, there's a red and green light at the end of the track. Did you see that?
Yep, I did see that. Absolutely. And of course, then there's the lights on the sleds themselves,
Right.
which is Bauer's way of indicating to everyone else, I personally am ready or I am not
Right.
ready. And if that thing is red, nothing's happening.
Well,
no one's doing anything.
When that thing's in red, his brakes are probably set and you couldn't move it anyway.
Sure.
And to answer Jason Schultz, no. Kinsey hasn't said anything tonight. She's giggled and
she has chuckled politely. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's
I'm
suffered
just
through
soaking
us.
it all in.
You know, all I know is Jason obviously likes Mike more than me. He's in charge. He's running the show. But no, Kinsey's running the show, dang it. We know that. And where'd Chandler go?
I just talk.
Did Chandler fall down? Did he leave? Is he in the restroom? Why is it
No, he went home.
Chandler's taking a nap behind the table. And the boss just logged on and caught him.
But anyway, no, it's. I'm glad you went down to the starting land and watched that first 100-foot. That's good. Good for you to learn for future reference.
No, I completely. I saw a lot of things and I absorbed a lot of things, and that's definitely. I would highly recommend that to anybody who's watching truck and tractor pulling. Watch it from everywhere.
And I might also mention I'm still drinking my Diet Coke because I have yet to receive my shipment of what's that energy drink?
Whole Train Energy.
Oh yeah.
We got to plug our own ones here.
But I did learn something. It was Thursday, and we had a case of Coltrane Energy drink because it sponsors the Pro Pulling League, and we had a case of it in the fuel room in the fridge. I did notice that if I drink 3 Coltrane Energy drinks in one day, I don't get much sleep. I mean, they work. It's energy. And Jason Bremer shared a room with me, him and Dion Bliss, and they went, Jesus, what did you do? Why are you so wired? I said, well, it must be the fact that I drank 3 Coltrane Energy drinks today. And,
oh, man.
And the next day, John Mears goes, you drank 3? And I went, yeah. He goes, you going to do that again? I went, no, maybe 2.
Maybe 2. Oh, that's awesome. Tell us some of the, I did not go over to Broadbent during showtime, and I went to the biggest farm show in the world, and I can tell you all about it as long as I'm only describing booth 3194. I can describe every bit of scenery. I want to hear some stories from Broadbent. What were some cool things you saw over there?
Here's a secret. I didn't make it to Freedom Hall at all.
Yeah.
I had a monitor in the Freedom or in the Broadbent, and I also was watching on live stream on my telephone. And I weighed back the top 3 in every division and pulled fuel and water samples on every division, including methanol from the mods and the 2-wheelers and 4-wheelers. And Chuck Hobbs to say, well, that's why I was driving my scooter around in Broadbent so fast. Well, I had it on wide open, and my mobility scooter, which I used to be ashamed of, and since everybody actually watched me walk up the stairs without stopping and walk back down the stairs from the driver's meeting, they know that I can still walk, but I get so tired on that concrete, and I had a mobility scooter. Well, you've seen it when I drove over to booth, what was it, 3194?
3194. That's the only number. I'm no math teacher, but that's as high as I think I've ever counted, and that number's burned into my brain.
So if you were to get a new cell phone, would you ask for whatever area code, whatever prefix with the last 4? 3194. I mean, come on.
That's what
would.
Jason
Kinsey
Schultz, new marketing idea. Every year, make your phone number be the same number as your Louisville booth number. It'll just be like a whole thing. It'll.
Well, you remember, I'm an idea guy.
You
So
are
that
the.
was my idea. But
Speaking
no,
of your, go ahead, Larry.
they broadband. Of course, they're not nervous, but everybody's keyed up and warmed up. The pro stocks, especially a bunch of them. If you've seen my Facebook page, I had some photos and some video. I put one video on TikTok of just the smoke hanging in the broadbent. But yeah, there's no smoking in that building. But my gosh, it was smoky. And when the pro stock guys come to you and say, "Man, it's pretty bad in here," I'm thinking, okay. But I tried to stay upwind, but it was rough.
Is that what a typical pro stock driver sounds like?
Oh, well, no, not all of them, but maybe Hildebrand, because he's a wild man. He's something else. But it set off the smoke alarm in the building 2 nights of the 4. And of course, it has to buzz until somebody gets a fire marshal to come over and turn it off. Yeah, it was breathing was an option. If I had a respirator, I'd have put it on. Yeah. If I can remember, next year I may get like a gas mask, like, World War II. I didn't say like the drug kids use. Anyway, I may put something on and drive around, but it's pretty rough. Yeah.
It was running rich. We'll say that broadbent was not leaned out. It was running rich.
Oh, it was rich in smoke, put it that way. But yeah.
You talked about your mobility scooter, and this was a fun one. I never got the video to play because Freedom Hall does not have great cell service. But how did your mobility scooter do at tech inspection?
Well, I passed tech. I was actually inspecting a roll cage, and somebody put a zip tie on the back and said, "Hey, Richmond, your kill switch passed." And I went, and then somebody put a helmet on it and took a photo. And I was inspecting roll cages, and the general public and pullers was having fun with Rich.
I saw they looked like they checked hitch height too. I saw that the little hitch,
Well, Marvin didn't want to do it. Jason wanted him to check my hitch. Marvin said, "Nope, he's not in the finals." And Jason practically made him do it. But yeah, my hitch was checked. My kill switch was checked. My protection on my head, which I've always said, if you got a $2 head, wear a $2 helmet. But anyway, somebody had put a Simpson helmet on the back, and I'm thinking, in all my years of pulling, I never could afford a Simpson helmet. Anyway, my first helmet I wore pulling was a J.C. Whitney Special. They're still going out of business after 40 years in Cincinnati. Anyway, no, I'm sorry, Chicago. But I had a lot of fun. I got to see everybody. It was a big love fest. Of course, it always is. We get to see our family and friends, like I talked about with the Nelsons, I had a ball, and got to see my family, and I'll get to see them again this summer. And it's you know how much of an old sentimental fart I am underneath this silly exterior.
You were talking about the pro stock guys. I got to have your hot take, your rich take, the rich take with Larry Richwine. What do you think of Tim Kane's new setup and how that thing just growled and was mean? And old Tim, and we're going to talk to him next week on the podcast. He's coming on. Cool. But he was you could see that emotionally meant a lot to him to lay down that pass.
Oh yeah. Do you know the first night when he qualified for the finals, that the next morning at 8 a.m. his wife Donna had back surgery?
I did not know that.
They drove that night after he qualified. They drove home and was in Fishers, Indiana at a back clinic, hospital type thing. At 8 a.m. she had a procedure, and it was I don't know whether they scraped something, but whatever. She's got a back problem. And she said when she got done and they said she could leave, she says, "Well, go out in the waiting room and wake up the only guy that's sound asleep. That's my husband." And and then Tim drove her back. They were back that night to the pool. And, but yeah, Tim's a good man, good friend. Once again, another part of the family, but she had back surgery and was back the next day. And he did well, but no, it run like a scalded dog. And I asked him, I said, so who's going to check a tractor out? And he goes, well, Lemke will, because Robbie Lemke does his engine work and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Robbie checked it out. It was fine or whatever. But I don't actually know what happened in the finals. But
yeah, I can only speculate. I'm not sure. So
well, the finals go so fast on Saturday night that between drawing fuel and water and weighing back the top three, I don't get much of a break between this class is done and here comes this class. And so I don't get it really much of a chance to watch who's doing what or anything. Probably the most satisfying moment of this past weekend is when the turbo blew up there at first, and our new device, the restraint thing, it worked, and no parts came out from underneath the hood, and it worked well for the big in the pro stock class. The last minute, the last 4 or 5 weeks, they had to purchase it and get it on, and it worked well. No sanctioning bodies adopted it yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to.
Well, and Greg spoke of that. That was the first thing he said in the interview. They asked him afterwards, and Greg was like, hey, and you could hear the deep sincerity in his voice, and he was like, look, this could have been very different, and it wasn't, and that rule they passed did its job. So, Louisville sets the gold standard when it comes to trending and things in the future. And Christopher Hutchison wants to know, what's your advice for the future? And I'll let you interpret that however you want. What advice do you have for the future of pulling?
The future of pulling, with all today's technology and high tech and social media and everything, I think we're on a good route for the future. I think shows not only like this, but you got the No Rehearse, whatever it is, podcast of the 3 mini rod guys, but it's bright. I think it's growing. My only concern is, what's the next generation going to have to put up with? Rules and technologies advancing so fast, and they're making more and more power. And just like this restraint system that was put in place for Louisville, had that not been done, had we not had an issue on a dyno somewhere that indicated there might be a problem, somebody could have got hurt. But my primary job and part of this sport the last 30 years has been safety. And I'm pretty proud of what's been done and what's getting done for the development of it to handle this power. But I think the future's bright myself.
Yep. I completely agree. And I think you hit the nail on the head. And I spoke with I had such a great opportunity at Louisville to go out there and be welcomed by the Beer Money Pulling team and be a part of them and be working with them now and being able to talk to so many people and meet so many people. And that was a conversation that was had with a lot of them, is how far the sport has come in the terms of safety and how that's a never ending thing, and how the horsepower and the technology. Brent Payne was talking about how the teams almost just kind of leapfrog each other and they take turns winning and someone develops something new. And the tires have been, for the past 2 or 3 years, the big thing there. For a while, it was anything, engine and turbo. And now it's tires is everything. And, if there was one name, the guy who was on our show without being on our show tonight was Chad Mayhill. You heard almost every single team, throw his name out there. And he obviously had a big weekend at the farm show just by the success of his product out there. So,
well, I mean, there's other tire manufacturers out there too, but Chad's been around so long and got a vast wealth of knowledge, and he's a puller himself, and he works with about anybody that's anybody he either has or he still cuts tires for them, and he's a very big part of the sport, and Chad deserves all the thank yous that he gets because he does a good job. And he don't just build them, build the tires and have them manufactured, but he cuts them, puts them to use. And he works with pullers. If they have an issue, he'll advise them on what to do, air pressure or what to do, rim width or whatever. And there's so many variables that from the grandstands, the general public doesn't have an idea. But when you get to the level of the puller level that has to try to get that power to the ground, that's when it all comes to play.
Yep. This guy says, pure speculation. Louisville runs no cube limit in the mod 4-wheel drives. 2 of the big 3 sanctioned organizations run no cube limit. You ever see NTPA removing the 650 limit at the Grand National level? The four-wheel guys I talked to this weekend, we talked a little bit about not removing it, but just the difference in the 650s and the mountain motors. Larry, is NTPA gonna remove the 650 limit anytime?
Well, I don't work there anymore, but I'd say no.
That would be my gut response, and I've got my banner on my board behind me too, so we kind of know where we're at. But the 650 guys they're kind of proud. They kind of like to say, we can take that 650
and the mountain motors have their place.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my new flag back here doesn't have a cubic inch limit, and it's 6 to 1/2 dozen another. But you talk to the Jason Bramers,
yep.
or you talk to the mountain motor guys, and they're proud, like you say, but they're also very competitive. And on any given day, either one can win. But I really think at the short track events, I think the mountain motors probably have a little bit more power than they actually hook up to the ground.
That's what it was. Literally, Jason kind of said the exact same thing. His opinion, and he spoke on that very well versed. It reminds me a little bit, maybe not as much, but a little bit of the diesel versus the Alki guys, and they all kind of have tracks that fit their needs better. Jason said very rarely are you going to find a track that gives the mountain motor guys a true advantage. He goes, most of the time we're going to be there. He says, but the drawback is you've got the horsepower, but you've got to tame that beast. Terry Hagedorn, man, that's a lot of motor. You said it earlier tonight. It's about putting it to the ground. So
and Terry's one of the better ones. I mean, he not only builds a bunch of mountain motors, but he can get it to the ground.
Yes, he can.
But I'd say if you're going to put a Terry Hagedorn and a Jason Braber up there to the contest, grudge match, whatever you want to call it, it's a toss-up because they both know how to put the power they have to the ground, and at that point it'll become the decision of the track and the setup they got on the truck. But there's so many variables on a four-wheel drive truck that you don't have on a two-wheeler or a tractor or whatever. I mean, like you said, that front end's doing more than the back. There's a lot of things that both of them guys will tell you, a lot of variables that nobody'd ever think about besides tires and tire pressure, et cetera, et cetera.
And sit at the starting line, guys, because you'll see more of those variables come into play. It was good to see Terry Hagedorn back at Freedom Hall for the first time in 15 years. Right. I thought that was really neat. The four-wheel drive truck class has a lot of blue bloods in it, a lot of true veterans with Jim Bosch and Terry Hagedorn and the Holmans. We don't see the Holmans at Freedom Hall very often. I think they really prefer their outdoor setup, but that's just a class that's just stacked with.
Well, they don't even apply, and they used to, but they don't even apply anymore. It's wintertime. I tell you what, wintertime Poland, besides the fact you got a shorter track or whatever, there's a lot of variables that you wouldn't think about. I mean, how warm's the oil in the engine? How warm's the oil in the rear ends? And there's, they run you out in the cold, even though they warm you up, and then you go back in the heat. There's a lot of things that they have to deal with on any division that they don't have to deal with outside. And I understand the Holman brothers say, hey, we ain't got anything to prove. We don't need to deal with those wintertime stuff. Yeah.
I like that you talk about warming up and cool it off. One of the conversations we had on the way home was Louisville's such a funny mix of get the heat in the engine, get the heat in the engine, get the heat in the engine. Let's fill Broadbent full of smoke, get the heat in the engine. And then when there's a pull off, get me outside, cool it off, cool. We got warm it up. We want to spin forever, warm it up. And then it's cool it off. So it's you're just chasing the difference there. And with this year the weather was chilly, so
the first couple nights it was awesome weather, and then it decided to show us that it was wintertime in Louisville.
So
yeah.
Well, I'm winding down to about all I have. Larry, you got any final words about Louisville? Big memories. What's if I were just interviewing you as a puller, what would you tell the world about Louisville as a tech person, a puller, or anything? What's it mean to you? What's it like to you?
Well, it's an awesome indoor event. It's an awesome event without being indoors. The prestige of it, the pomp and circumstance of the drivers' intros to the finished results and finished interviews, the top three. if they're a pulling fan at all indoors and they've never been to or outdoors, I mean, and never been to an indoor event, they should come to the best of the best, and that's Louisville. There's so many things there. If they're a true truck and tractor pulling fan, that if they didn't think about before, they'll maybe come to realize at Louisville. And it's a big party type atmosphere, but yet it's a tractor pull that nobody can match as far as prestige and honor if they did well. But I had a great time, mostly because I seen everybody. But remember, I never went to Freedom Hall, and I still had a heck of a good time, you know?
Yep.
But I did get to watch it. I got to watch it. So,
yep. And I realized too, now that I'm at the tail end of the show, I had other stuff I was supposed to talk about. I'm learning. I got to get better. But other indoor pools, Keystone, the Keystone Nationals, you know, that's going to be coming up March 14th through 16th.
Right.
That one looks like an awesome one in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, at the
Very
Pennsylvania Farm Show Complex. They're going to go Thursday through Saturday with multiple sessions out there. I promise we'll be talking more about that over the next couple coming weeks. We just really wanted to dive into Louisville this week. And always, the Pullers Championship, May 17th and 18th, Nashville, Illinois. You know,
I forgot about that.
I imagine it would. I should mention that pool anytime I get a chance. If I'm, you know, here on the show, I better make sure that we're talking about the Pullers Champ. But in all honesty, you know, pulling is fun. Pulling is everywhere. There's a chance for great top-notch pulling. Promote 365, as Jason used to say. But the Keystone Nationals is coming up March 14th through 16th in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We passed a billboard for the Pullers Championship on the way to Louisville, right outside of the eastern side of St. Louis. It's in Nashville, Illinois, just on the other side of St. Louis. Put that one on your calendars. That one is quickly becoming the hottest new destination pull out there.
So, Kenzie, you haven't said nothing. I think you should be the one to say something, and then you can tell Michael, yes, you're correct. You didn't go by the script. And Larry's just supposed to be like comic relief, historian, brag about the family atmosphere, get everybody almost teary-eyed about how much, oh, man, he's, Mr. Sentimental Larry. But, I mean, Kenzie, Michael, give her a minute. Kenzie, talk to us, honey.
Well, I had a great, yes, as Chuck Hobbs is commenting on here, I'll be going with him to Liberty, Kentucky next week for some garden tractor pulling.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's 3 days, or 2 days of pulling. But yeah, no, I had a great time at the farm show. As always, my second year down there, did some filming, all the stuff behind me. That's what I did. And yeah, I was just glad to be back, see everybody again, like you said, Larry, because I don't get to see everybody all the time.
Right.
How many polls I get to. But yeah, no, it was a good show. Everything went well, and hope to do it again.
And the what was that booth number again? 3194.
3194.
Anyway, yeah.
I was there 5 times, I think. Oh, as I was here, there, and everywhere. Broadbent, Freedom Hall, the parking lot.
Wait, the parking lot?
Yeah, with the haulers when the tractors were outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mind, you know how Michael actually muted his mic because he didn't want to butt in, but that's okay. You know, I do that occasionally, not mute my mic, but butt in. So, you know.
Yeah, it happens.
I think we've had a pretty good show again without Jason. And I hope Jason's watching. If not, I hope he watches the replay. And I hope he notices that we need him, but not much.
He keeps me, I get so fired up to meet pullers and to be a part of what's going on that I can just, you know, sit here and run through my mind goes a million miles an hour. Yeah, Jason needs to be on here because he can steer me and remind me not to just get going a million miles. It's an honor to be here with pullers. This is a dream of mine. I've wanted to do this my whole life and to be interacting with all of these people and with you, Larry, and the Beer Money pulling team. This was, you know, I knew I'd never be able to grow up to be a puller, but if I could grow up to be in anything in the world of, you know, broadcasting pulling, that's all I ever wanted. So this is, it's hard for me not to get, you know, passionate and go a million miles an hour because it's just such a great experience to be here every week.
Well, and if anybody out there doesn't realize how much that Michael means that, he's so misguided. when he got to shake my hand, he acted like it was an honor to meet me in person.
Well,
And I said, "Oh, Michael, bless you. You know not what you want."
you are the Larry Richwine. You are.
No. I'm just Larry.
I'm just like,
I'll tell you 2 humbling moments. I had a man walk up to me at the booth and he said, I'd like to introduce myself. And I said, okay, nice to meet you, sir. And he said, I'm Hans Boxler Jr. And I said, no, you don't introduce yourself to me. I introduce myself to you, And it was wonderful, wonderful. And I also knew that I was getting close to knocking on the door of doing the right things and pulling. I was walking through Freedom Hall, and RJ Simon nodded to me, and I was like, RJ Simon has recognized
You've made it
in some capacity. I am involved in this. And I did. I was like, I elbowed my dad, and I said, that's RJ Simon, and he just nodded at me.
Well, I was glad to meet you too, young man, and I'm glad you enjoy the sport that I dearly love and I'm proud to be a part of. You probably enjoy it more than I do now, but I don't think so. It's become old hat to me, but I tell you what, it's the best family you can be a part of.
Truer words were never spoken.
It's 11 o'clock in Indiana.
My watch is still on East Coast time, so it's 11 o'clock in Missouri. But like I said, that public education system and numbers and conversion. So I don't know. I'm gonna go downstairs and gain an hour.
Okay. Well, who's on next week with you, Tim?
So
Kane?
next week lined up at this point is going to be a lot of fun. We've got Ike Zering. He's going to come on and tell us about driving through the sand pile, something that he and I actually joked about in our interview. And that one's going to break the internet. We know that the stream was probably, what do you call it, Larry? The flow was big on that one.
The flow was heavy. The flow was heavy. Yeah.
The flow was heavy on Ike driving.
That refers to many, many, many years ago. I did a question and answer thing with NTPA on the internet. And, they'd say, well, how's the flow of BS today? And when somebody came out with a new rule or something happened controversial, I'd say, well, the flow is pretty heavy today. But, it's the flow is always good flow. And then I jokingly said that I worked at the sewage treatment plant and the flow. And I'd say, the valve on tank number 7 stopped up. I actually had a guy that was a puller in the Mid-South that worked at the sewage treatment plant in Tennessee. And he told somebody, he says, I'm pretty sure Larry really works at a sewage treatment plant because he's using some terms like, MGD, like million gallons a day. And I might have been referring to MGD beer. Anyway.
Effluent. Words like effluent.
Yeah. Whatever you said. Yeah, you're the teacher. Somebody wants to know my favorite class and why. Well, they're all my favorites, but I came from a modified class. I built my first mod and run mods for 16 years before I built that jet-powered 2-wheel drive truck. I really did. And I have to admit, my heart's in the modifieds. I don't play the lottery because I can't risk, $2. But if I did and won it, you'd see the meanest unlimited mod ever built. I'd call Tim Engler and I'd call Sassy Engines and say, boys, build it. And I might not be able to drive it worth a damn, but boy, I'd give it a good shot. So,
would you go with 3, 4, or 5 engine setup?
5.
5. Oh,
5. In a heartbeat.
I love it.
5. And if we had the old style tires, it'd be 6. But 6 engines actually now is too much power to hook up.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be me-toss tires on the back and 5 motors in front of it, and it would be one mean son of a gun's all I got to say.
That's awesome.
So, anyway.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to get off here, guys.
Yep. That sounds good. Next week, we got Ike Zering, Tim Kane, and Josh Blackburn lined up so far.
Wow.
Good show. Be a good show.
Should be a great one. Big thank you to them for coming on. Larry, thanks for everything you do. This was excellent.
My pleasure. See you guys.
See you next week.
Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.